music for me was growing up the youngest of 9 kids, having so many older siblings, almost kicked, especially my musical interests, tastes, values, loves, what have you, almost back a generation. My sisters were the screaming girls in the Beatles concerts, and so I grew up with stuff like that. My brothers listened to Yes and Kansas and Aerosmith, and so listening to all this music, and my mom listened to bubblegum stuff, pop, and just had all this music, and I was just like a sponge and just sucked it all in, and then I discovered my generational music. But wanting to play music was probably the Beatles, I would say. Ringo taught me how to play drums, and he doesn't even know it. And then when I got a little bit older, I listened to pop and a little bit of metal, but it was like Phil Collins and guys like that, and it really made me want to take chopsticks and beat on oatmeal boxes. And then as a teenager, really got into pop and country, and then here's how it started. There was a band in Woodford County named Just Us, and they were a very popular band that people came to see. And a couple of my older brothers knew a couple guys in the band. They heard me practicing drums. Their drummer got hurt. He fell off a ladder or something, and or his fingers were messed up. Anyway, they had this 14-year-old me, come and sit in on a couple jobs with them, and it was the best thing ever. And they got paid good money back then, which I still get paid less than some of those gigs. I thought I was going to do this forever and be rich, But, and then I got into a band that played gigs when I was about 14, and they had to come and ask my dad if he, could we take Bruce out to these bar gigs, 14-year-old me, and Dad was like, well, don't get him drunk. So that was the yes I needed. And then, after that fell apart, I formed a band in high school, and we just played covers and played the local small town stuff, and our friends would come to the gigs, and it was still really a lot of fun. And that's what I was telling him about the amplifier that I bought to sing through, because no one else could sing, so I got nominated. And I bought a guitar amp and a realistic microphone to sing through. We thought it was cool. But that's kind of how it started for me, just as a kid listening to so much music, and then figuring out when I was young that I could kind of keep time and I understood how music worked. So I guess, later on I had this, met some dudes getting into your 20s and stuff, and I really picked up this appreciation for blues music and kind of jam band stuff, and formed a couple cover bands that would do a lot of blues and jam band stuff, and we had a really good time with that. And we played, I didn't know so many people over here like we were talking about until later on, because we kind of stayed over that way, because it was just like this, this crowd of people from out in the sticks, I guess, that were just kind of fun to hang around with. And after that project stopped, got into a project with Derek Sorrells and Misty. And we started writing some songs, and that band was called Sojourner. And we did some really cool stuff with some other bands, and tried to get some music recorded. It was really tough back then. And writing songs was appealing, and I was never much of a lyricist, but it's so much fun to be able to collaborate and help someone craft, and that's what I was always best at, arranging and ideas within a song rather than lyrics. But Electric Wine was another band that I recorded music with, and we recorded quite a bit of stuff. That was with Misty Altho. That was with Misty also, and we had great fun with that. It wasn't, it was really cool, as we kind of centered on the creation and not so much the gigging aspect. I had other bands I was kind of working with, cover bands and stuff, and that band taught me a lot about studio behavior and how to work and how to make sure that you do things right, how not to blow a take, and everyone's still learning that stuff, and that's the stuff, man. When you're live, that moment's gone, but this is the moment you gotta, this moment's captured. You screw up when you're playing live, and it's just feeling. It's jazz. It's just roots. If you screw up in the studio, you're costing everybody time and money and stuff like that. But that band taught me a lot about that. And then on the complete other side of the coin, I met the guys from Pekin, the Dennison brothers, Billy and Brian, and started playing sometimes 6 nights a week, and just really grinding it out. And it wasn't like the old days where you'd get 4 days at a place. It was, if we played 6 nights, it'd be 6 one-nighters, or 5 nights, it'd be 5 one-nighters. That was the time when it started not getting the multiple night engagements, and that showed me how to wear yourself out playing music, for sure, because it gets old, because then it becomes a job, and you're around a bunch of smashed people all the time, and you can't be that smashed. It just gets to be a drag. And then I had, that thing went past. Times change, bands change, people leave, they got stuff going on. I had little kids, and I had a cover band called Inner Groove, and then that turned into a cover band called Checkerbox, which we haven't played in a couple of years, but every once in a while we'll get back together and play like 90s rock, and it's just kind of a goofy project. And Inner Groove was a cover band that we had fun with. And then in around 05 or 06, a guy named Steve Respris, who I still play with his son, Isaac, and he approached me, we worked together, and he approached me if I wanted to be in an Elvis tribute show, which I'd always had appreciation for Elvis, because I grew up with all that kind of music. And, we kind of threw ourselves into this, and it was, a really first-class show. This guy had a club, he had beautiful stage sets, he had really good gigs, and he had a tour bus, and we traveled around and played casinos and town fairs, and made really good money for the first time, and played in front of really good crowds for the first time. And that kind of, you talk about, people always talk about, man, I'd love to be on the road, I'd love to do this, and just travel and be a musician. It's not for everyone, and that stuff weeds those people out really quick. But it also was an eye-opener. It was like nothing I'd ever done before. It was really focused on the show, and we wore costumes, and we had constructed sets and well-constructed costume changes, different vocalizing from the band members, kind of time up with these costume changes, getting the sets ready, and pyrotechnics and smoke and all that stuff. So it was another eye-opening experience. And just as you travel through your career, you never ever stop learning about anything, because anything you do on a given day might be completely different than something you've ever done before over the course of thousands of gigs, 2,000-3,000 gigs. But each one, there's a challenge. There's a dynamic. Are we going to have to play soft? Are we going to play loud? What's this? What do they want to hear? It's just everything. It's encompassing. And if you can just soak as much of that up as you can, it makes you better for that experience. And I think if you ever stop learning, that's probably about the time to get out, because nobody knows everything. My wife knows everything, I think. She knows everything that's best, anyway. I told you I'd remember that. So, in the Elvis band thing kind of disbanded, guys quit, and we just kind of dissolved the band. Got back to playing in a few cover bands, started recording songs along with my wife Misty and a couple other guys. A band called Electric Wine, which taught me a bunch about the studio and what you need to do and how to approach it. And it's it seems so easy, but it's so damn hard. And that band taught me so much about not blowing a take and how to approach it. That's just the biggest thing. And we got a lot of stuff recorded, and it was really cool to hear how those things developed. And when I joined that band as the bass player, I'd always been kind of interested in bass. I figured out that I could do it after I played a few chords when I was a kid on a guitar, and figured out that bass was, again, a little bit easier. So I being a drummer, it kind of goes hand in hand. I was kind of, playing bass. I always want to anticipate what the drummer's doing so we can be together. And that was a huge thing, from playing drums for all those years and singing and, playing bass. Really, it was something new and something new to learn. And again, with trying to learn new things all the time. And so it was great just to be able to have the instrument and be able to be more desirable to any project that I may want to go into. And I played bass in a few other bands, and I play bass currently, and still play drums once in a while. But that was the band that kind of figured out that I could do more, just just completely more. Just keep doing more and more and more. And I need to clone myself, I suppose. I could have my own band, but and then after that fell apart. Still playing in a ton of cover bands, and I kind of got into a horror stage where I was playing in so many bands and so many different commitments, and it was it was fun for a while. I was keeping myself busy and being able to play with a ton of gifted players in the area, and being able to learn from people like that, because it's so valuable to learn from everyone that you can. And because everyone, no matter if they do this well or do that well, maybe you do this well and don't do that well so well, if that makes any sense. So I think it's important to play with many people, and that phase was, I was playing with a ton of people, the Ron Eckberg Band and Bob King and Doc, and just still doing Boomstick at the time, which kind of came out after Checkerbox had started, and we wanted to play with some other guys, and we started Boomstick, and that's still going, and we've been through a bunch of people, 6-piece band that I love playing in. It's really fun, and we don't have any we don't necessarily have any restrictions, and that's what I really like about it. We can kind of tackle anything that we want to, that people will still like, and we have fun doing. So it's fun to be able to do that. You can kind of do your own thing, and people still dig it and want to come and see the shows, and that's the most important thing. And then back in 2016, I guess, the drummer for the Joe Stan Band quit, and they hired me, and I went on full time with them, and we got to play some really great shows and do some more recording and a lot of travel and a ton of video shoots, and it's just as busy as I've ever been, and being able to sell records and produce music and record and play these amazing shows that we play, and people that come to see them, and so I played drums with him for about, I guess it was about 3 years, and our bass player left, and it was just easier to find a drummer that could travel, so I switched over to bass and was able to record another album on bass guitar, which is hopefully coming out soon. As far as writing songs, I wrote songs back in the day, and we would get them recorded, and I was never completely happy with what my role was, especially within a band. I was always recording songs with a band, which is, it's great. The band is just I really like what bands do just as a collective. It's a unique collective, and I could go write some songs, and even if they were complete garbage, I could still go pay somebody to record them and put out an album. Doesn't mean they're any good. That's what I always kind of liked about a band, just the psyche of that collection, that group. And I started writing lyrics, and I was a singer, and I just never really got off on writing lyrics. I was more into, I think the drums should do this here, the bass should do this here, the guitar should do this here. I like to arrange the songs better. There was people that were better at writing, so I thought in the situation that I was in various bands that I recorded with, if there was a strong lyricist, man, then you got one thing licked. you can work through anything else that's, you know. And so I think when you find something like that, it's hard to say you want to identify roles, but there are definitely roles, and everybody can do a little bit of everything. But you take those strengths and put them together, it can make a you know, something special. And you know, in your first recording, of course, you know, I had a tape recorder and I just push play or push record, and we'd all just play into it. And you know, you think it's you think, oh, this is going to be easy recording music, and you find out that it's not so easy. But and that's, you know, when songwriting comes in, you just need to have, and it's so important that again, with the band and the people that you're going to make this music with, and you'll end up with this end product, this art. And if someone has the role or doesn't have the role, but they're not putting the work in, that's where it can throw things off. And I've always been blessed to, for the most part, to work with people who were dedicated to being conscientious about the parts they were going to play and how it would fit with the rest of the song and complement the song. And it's such a long process, but it's so rewarding, and there's nothing else I'd rather work at that's as rewarding to me, you know, just with what one guy suggests, what one girl suggests, what she brings, what he brings. And if you can hammer this thing out and get it to where you really are proud of what you're doing, and I think that's the best. That's when you feel like you've accomplished something, rather than, you know, if you play a bunch of great shows, or you have you have this really nice trip, or you do this thing, or whatever you do, if, you know, it might be the greatest thing ever, but it might not be quite as satisfying as what, you know, came out of you and your counterparts. And I think that's the biggest thing with songwriting. I think it can be such a collaborative process, and I've just accepted that as my role, what I can bring, what I've learned, what I've experienced, what I've done. I can bring that to help. And if, you know, you have to have someone who is willing to let you take their song and mold it in your image, or a collective image. I think that's also important. It's back to people knowing their roles and being able to, you know, if you can't, somebody can be the greatest player in the world, or the hottest songwriter of the world, but if he's impossible to work with, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I guess that's my take on the whole songwriting process and recording songs and whatnot. In 1994, I don't remember the date exactly, but we were having band rehearsal, and like a power amp broke, and it was smoked out something. So here we are, we can't rehearse. So a buddy comes by, he says, "Hey man, I know there's a party out in the country." So I'm thinking, yeah, some dude's garage, you know, he's got like a drum set up, a couple guitar amps, you know, it'd be fun, whatever, let's go. And we show up at this place called Ellendorf, and we're just blown away. You know, there's thousands of people at this place, and it's this beautiful outdoor venue, and just this natural amphitheater, and just this gorgeous setting. It's very Woodstock-like, and friendly people, and a lot of, you know, camping and partying going on. It's just like the coolest place to be for a musician. And the stage is so cool, and there's people down there. And so the first night we show up, we try to, hey man, can we get on stage somehow? Because they used to do like an open stage at the end. So here's these guys nobody's ever seen before. These 22-year-old guys. These guys are all in their 40s, you know. We're trying to get on stage, and, you know, it's like, no way. Complete roadblock. So I don't even remember how it happened, but we ended up being on stage that night for their like roundup, because they were like, fine, let these guys play, so they shut up, you know. And it ended up being on Robin Akins, one of great bass player, respected musician, guy's been around the world and done everything, and he was kind of in charge of all that, and he used to put out a record every year with the people that would play there, and we ended up being on that record the next year, and we thought that was the coolest thing ever. And that place has intertwined itself into my musical community and career ever since. You know, the next year we played there many successive years, and it was always a great time, and the owner of the place really accepted us when some of the other guys wouldn't, and he knew that things had to change, and it was tough, but you know, we made it through that, and things got back to like they should have been, and we carried on. I ended up being the stage manager and got to work with, I was able to, that's how I really got to know so many people around here when I started booking the bands and being the stage manager there. And again, more learning how things work when you're not just showing up to play, and what you have to take care of, and how to be accommodating to artists and to the venue and to the sound tech, and just more of the business that you can absorb and just learn more about it, because you just never know. You never know everything. And so that was, that's like a 25-year highlight of my career, and especially being able to get to know so many great musicians, so many great players, so many fantastic people, and be able to work with so many of them. And in 2014, one of the last years they had it, we had a nice spot, and we had a nice crowd, and one of our buddies grew up with Gary Retrath, who, as far as I know, played right here, and he came out that night, at the prodding of his buddy Ron McFall, and you could tell he wanted to play. He sat at the side stage and was rubbing the guitar, picking his fingers, and he was fired up to play. And Dave Chaston and Jimmy Willis, another one of my favorite guys, and was it Roger, DC3 band. Gary got up and played a few songs with them, and then when my band Boomstick played with Misty and Josh Lehman and Dave Bollinger, Jamie Martinez, Isaac, and Gary got up and played a couple songs with us, had a couple of these jams, and it was really quite a night, and one that sticks out in many nights that I'll always remember at Ellendorf. And that was just a huge part of who I am musically, who I am as a musician, a partner, a worker, and this is very important in the growth and just overall experience of what I've done. If not the most important, it's in the team photo. And it was a great run, and sadly came to an end, but we have a lot of great memories of that, and very much a highlight of what I've done. So, like, stories from the road, and back when I was young, we played a lot of local stuff. Thank goodness I didn't go out on the road a lot when I was young, because it would have been probably disastrous. But there's been a lot of local stuff, especially growing up in the time when I did. And you hear stories about people throwing television sets into swimming pools and driving their cars through shit, destroying hotel rooms and breaking toilets and stuff. And yeah, we did plenty of that stuff. But I remember one time we had this cake, the birthday cake. It was this huge birthday cake, and someone just started cutting it with their hands and throwing it around this hotel room. And it was, we have a picture of Jay, and his head is completely covered in cake. So, that's how crazy it gets on the road, kids. And a lot of the best stories you can't remember. There was some nights at the studio that we had, and it was nothing out of hand, but you get through a day of recording, and you tend to relax a little bit, and 3 a.m. someone wakes everybody in the band up and says, we got to go down and jam right now, and he won't take no for an answer. And so dragging two sober guys and two not sober guys down to the studio and thinking it's the greatest thing ever, and then the next morning be like, what, did we go downstairs and play last night? We have no idea. I'm sure it was complete garbage. But a lot of the times on the road, since we're like setting up and tearing down our own junk, so there's not a lot of time for weird things to happen, but they do happen once in a while. And sometimes it's the simplest, goofiest things that kind of take your mind off of, we have to drive 8 hours tomorrow, or we have to go back to a place that we didn't particularly have a good experience at. And sometimes it's just, the best stories are from the road, are the times that you just have this fellowship and you have these happy times where you're not, it's kind of a break. You're doing what you want to do, But sometimes you do have to kind of cut loose from that and remember that you still like other things, and you know, not only beer, but mostly beer. Stories, but there really aren't any good G-rated stories.
Your mother's gonna see that.
She doesn't care. She knows that punk stole weed from me. You can put that on there too. Your mom's gonna see that. It was like a 3-night run, and all 3 of these bars, you could still smoke cigarettes in. So we're like, what the hell? You know, of course I'm like, yeah, man, this is like it used to be. And everybody else is like, oh, this sucks, you know. But whatever. And this one time I remember, we went to Dothan, Alabama to do this run of shows. This big club down there, like 4 or 5 nights in a row. They had us in band house too. And this band house was a little bit more questionable than the one in Denver. You know, it was like a couple of guys went out to Walmart and bought new sheets for the beds and stuff. And so we're looking for, you know, there's not much to do in Dothan, Alabama. You can go to like Outback Steakhouse or Walmart, you know, multiply those. And so we're like, hey man, they had a VCR there. It was great. We're all around this stupid old TV, like 20-inch SD TV with this VCR. And somebody pulled out the video cassette tape, and it was Fargo. And so he puts in Fargo, and it starts playing, and it was paused on the scene where everybody's in the hotel rooms having sex. And we're like, who's the last band that came here? Either that or somebody was watching this while we were at Walmart or whatever they do in Dothan, Alabama. It's not, you know, it's nothing like Led Zeppelin dumping a lady into a vat of baked beans or whatever, but, you know, the pepperoni fights, those were kind of fun.
We was at
sticking napkins to ceilings in restaurants. We don't trash restaurants anymore, though. We have great respect for people in the service industry, that's for sure.
I'm sure you've been
No
to
spit in the
the
food.
Denny's though at like 3:30,
That's
4
what I
a.m. and you order like $400 worth of food.
Waffle House.
On the wall, right?
Waffle
On
House,
the wall
yeah.
above the doorway. Right
Oh,
above
the jelly.
body's
Oh,
head.
the jelly.
It's like-
And then this one guy, he would take like the creamer cups, and he'd turn it upside down he'd hold it up to his face and take a knife and go, oh, and they'd like explode all over the table, and people are like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Mom, I said the F word. Never mind the weed. It was terrible. It was terrible, man. And yeah, so it's so fucking hot, right? And this trailer the air conditioner doesn't work. The air conditioner in the Sprinter didn't work. So we get done playing our set, and we're just getting murdered in this horrible Missouri sunshine.
No clouds.
Nobody's watching us. They're all like under the trees, 300 yards from the stage.
They were all
Well, there's a
watching
big-
you, dear. They're just trying to find shade.
This was like a big festival. You know, Sawyer Brown was headlining that night, and they had who were the Roadhouse Bandit Girls or
Runaway June.
Runaway June, and
were
there was one. Yeah, they were great. And then Sawyer Brown was going to close, and yeah, it's just so hot we couldn't get cool. And then we eat a bunch of barbecue, and it was great. But it's like hot food on top of just like bleeding to death. We're sweating so much, and so we're like, you know, hang out and see the show, and we're going to see Sawyer Brown. It's pretty cool, man. You know, I've heard they were really good live. We saw this storm rolling in, and we're kind of, you know, people were warning us about this storm, and we're out in the plains, you know, so we're, you know, thinking like F5, and we're going to be Toto, and we're gone. And so we go back to the hotel. We get comfortable, you know, people like clean up, freshen up and stuff. And we look outside, and all of a sudden it's black outside. And so, you know, me, I walk outside. I had a cup of tea. And walked outside, and so here comes this storm, right? And I am out in the ditch, and I'm like leaning like Michael Jackson in the, what was that video, Smooth Criminal? You know, I'm like at 38 degrees, leaning into this 60-mile-an-hour wind, and it felt so nice because it was cool, you know. And it was like 900 degrees that day, and now it's like 60 with this major wind. And so finally we had to go back inside because it was about to blow us away. And yeah, and then I think we had another cup of tea, maybe maybe. And we started playing charades. Yeah, man, that's how crazy shit gets on the road. And so the window, there's like the window, a lot of times in hotels, the window will only open for like 10 inches, so you can't like throw televisions out and shit. This one opened all the way. So we're like smoking cigarettes out the window. The wind is so strong, we could crack the door and put the latch on it. It's just like a wind tunnel. And so finally we get this idea. It's pouring down rain outside. And finally we get this idea. We find a golf ball. And we get this great idea that I should go down in the middle of the parking lot, in the middle of this raging thunderstorm, and catch the golf ball as they bounce it. I'd have to run around the parking lot. So I'm completely soaking wet out in this parking lot, running down a golf ball. Just out of my mind. And, that, man, I'll tell you what, that's as salacious as road stories get, man. Drinking tea and chasing golf balls, man. But that was a good one. It all, all's well that end well. Sawyer Brown didn't get to play that night. I was bummed for them, but the storm was wicked, and then we chased golf balls. Then remember those people that I brought up to the room?
And everybody got mad.
Oh yeah, there was like, I went down to have a smoke, right? And there's like this chick that's downstairs, and I didn't really recognize that she looked like she was on meth or something, She's with this dude, or was it another girl? Maybe? I think it was another dude, some dude. And they met me like in the stairwell of this hotel, and like, hey, you were in that band today, right? I'm like, yeah, hey, we're staying upstairs, And she's like, well, can I meet Joe? And I want to get him to sign a record or something that she bought. And so I'm like, hell yeah, come on up to the room, And so everybody by that time was kind of calming down. I really wasn't, but everybody else got. So I opened the door and let these people in, these strangers into the room, and so they sign the shit and everything, and I leave, and everybody's like ripping on me, like, what are you doing, bringing these fucking meth addicts into our room for these signatures on a stupid CD, And everybody's mad at me, and I had been, I'd been to tea time, and I was like, man, I want everybody to be mad at me, man. Go chase golf balls again.
It's gonna be fun for us again.
I'm gonna go outside in the tornado, man. It's less hostile in here. Jeez.
I don't want to be put on our lives in danger, Bruce. I want to be golf ball Bruce.
Yeah. I don't want to be somebody stabbed me and took my guitar, Bruce. I want to be chasing golf ball in the rain, Bruce. We were in Kentucky. We had adjoining rooms, and we got all pissed out, man, all drunk. And I was trying to record a commercial for some stupid product that didn't exist. And I was trying to get through like 4 minutes of talking into a camera like I'm doing now. And he has it saved somewhere, but I couldn't get through like 9 or 10 seconds without completely breaking down. And I was, it was tears in my eyes. And these guys are just merciless on me. You got to get this done, They were fucking with me at that point. But that night ended up being where they gave me certain scenarios to act out. So the first one they wrote down was like a Cockney diner waitress from Sussex or something like that. So here I come walking into the hotel room, like trying to act out some British waitress. And then they gave me the other one was a zombie mailman, which was always one of my favorites. So here I am, there's like families staying in this hotel, and here I am walking along this balcony of this hotel, like throwing shit in the room and stuff. And then I go around the corner. So there's a balcony on the hotel. So I go around the corner and I look across the parking lot, and it's like Kentucky District 10 State Police Headquarters. So I go around the corner and I look down, and there's like 50 fucking cop cars sitting right there. And I'm out on this hotel balcony acting like a zombie mailman. Like, we are never going home. I'm going to be stuck in Kentucky, some gulag in Kentucky for the rest of my life. But you can see that didn't happen. Starting out when you're young and hungry and you just wide-eyed and just would do anything to play. And that was back in the 80s for me, and it was still, the scene was so much more receptive to live music and entertainment as a whole. It was, as far as highlights, those first few gigs that you play, there's just, you'll never forget the rush, the exhilaration, we're doing this, this is what we do. And so early on, it's just,
it was like every show was a highlight. You know, people would come and people would react, and but that's a young person getting their toe into the water, and as it moves along, you play some really cool things and do some stuff. I mean, you play thousands of gigs, you're bound to have a good one here and there. So, I guess there was a couple in the '90s where we had tons of people, and they would come out and we'd have great nights, and it was still through a young person's evolving mind. And then you play some shows where you are playing your original music for the first time. We did a showcase with the guys that were in Mudvayne and Bloody Mess, and some other guys around town that I respect. And we went in there and played. This was a showcase for original music, but it was 90% really heavy. And what we were doing in Sojourner was kind of almost like classic rock vibe, kind of. It was original. It was the '90s. You had that flair in there, and we really kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. But it was really, I'll never forget that show, because just playing in that cool old ballroom that's burned down now with those guys that have been around and have done stuff, that was a highlight. I'll never forget that one. Early in the 2000s, and then we got through with the Elvis band. We did some really nice shows with lots and lots of people. The first really big crowds I've ever played for, 7,000 or 8,000 people, and we got to do some shows with some celebrities, and we got to do a show with the Jordanaires, which those guys actually sang with Elvis, and we got to rap with them, and did a really cool show in this great old theater up in Galesburg, and just we're able to talk to these guys, and just having that connection to that much history of rock and roll and popular music was definitely a highlight. I just googled one of those guys from the Jordanaires today, and there's video of it somewhere, I'm sure, but that was a definite highlight. And there's been so many great, even local things that we've done. That playing downtown Peoria, or playing in who knows where out in the sticks. Just so many great shows that I remember over the years, and local venues, and then ending up getting to travel with the Joe Stamp band. We got to open for some major players, I guess you'd call, Molly Hatchet, Jamie Johnson, stuff like that. The Jamie Johnson show kind of sticks out in my mind, because we were the act right before him. We were support, and there's probably 11 or 12,000 people there, and Joe has them singing along, and it was that was a great highlight. There's so many. Look out and see that sea of people, and it's something that you always dream of. And that was a really cool moment. And the CD release parties have always been great too. It's the people that really want to buy your music, and they're into what you're doing, and the appreciation level is so high. And you guys know what it's like. You play in front of a great, attentive, awesome crowd, and it's just all that energy and all that adrenaline, and everything's just on such a high. You just don't forget that stuff. You can't drink or smoke anything that gets you that. It might help, but yeah, man. Down through the years, those are some of the real nice gigs. So
Some hash browns, you might have to warm up. So that's why they like me in the van. It's not that I can play any good or sing any good. It's that I'm ridiculous and make them laugh while they're going to their shows. You see, if we laugh, it's a lot easier to take all this drudgery and travel. And if you can impersonate people that we like to laugh at, it's even better. Oh, man. So, yeah, more life on the road.